Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Stu does not share my optimism, and I think that's too strong of a word. I'm not optimistic. I am hopeful that somebody in Washington on our side understands what we're facing here, that healthcare is the biggest win. It's the biggest win and totally winnable.
Yeah, and I do think if it was like the top priority of Donald Trump, like I think he would be able to move Republicans toward trying to come up with something, I guess. But I don't show much optimism on that because as I was going through that whole scenario, it wasn't just that we said these rates would go up and that the Affordable Care Act wouldn't be affordable and gave all of the reasons that wound up playing out with risk pools and everything else. It wasn't also that we would say, hey, the way they're going to try to solve this is by more government subsidies and more dependence on government. We said all that stuff, and that's what we just talked about. But the other thing we said was that after this thing got passed, the Republicans would bail on opposing it. We would no longer have an opposition. We're now to the part of the story where the right-wing position is just normal Obamacare. And the left-wing position is new, expanded, fancy, times 10 Obamacare. It's the question of whether we triple down on Obamacare or double down on it. That's now the conservative position.
Okay, so let me give you some hope. I talked to Dr. Oz, and he said they are introducing something here in the next couple of months. Should be any time now. And it will be done at the state level. And it will be to stop all the barriers from state to state, and you get your funding for different programs if you get rid of those barriers for your insurance companies, and if you don't, well, you don't get your funding, and so they're going to be incentivized to do it. So I do think that there is some thinking about this that is going on with RFK and Dr. Oz. In fact, let's see if we can get them on. Maybe I'll go up to Washington and do a podcast with him, because I think this is the big win here. Because if you look, you have to change the life of people in the next 15 months, 12 months if you want to win the election. And if you want to win with J.D. Vance, you're going to have to do it in the next 18 months at the very minimum. Okay, it's going to get harder and harder to do it. So you have the things. What are the levers the president has in front of him? Housing. What is the problem with the housing market? The housing market, there's a couple of problems. One, we have a shortage of housing. Okay, because everybody freaked out and everybody's like, 2008 we had a housing glut, and so now maybe we should go the other way. And so we didn't build enough houses. So now we have this giant housing shortage. Okay, so can the president fix that one quickly? No. Because millions of houses need to be built, and how is he going to do it? Unless there's a land grab, okay? Unless he opens up federal land, which we saw how that one went. So he can't really fix the housing thing. He could help it by saying, hey, BlackRock, you guys stop buying houses. But how do you do that? I mean, is that the right thing to do? I mean, it's the right thing to do for the people constitutionally. Can you do that? I don't know. I don't think so. The next cost that people are feeling, electricity. What are you going to do with that? Well, we know that he is building power plants, or he is letting the red tape go on the power plants. So if you want to build a power plant, you can build a power plant in record time. But that, again, is 18, 24, 36 months away, minimum, before you have new power plants where you'll start to see your electricity costs go down. So you can't do that. Food costs. What is he going to do? Import cheaper food? That's not a good idea. So how do you affect the average person's money? Well, you can send them free money, which means we have to print more. He's going to send free money. It's the money that, he's been taking in from the trade barriers. So he's saying he's going to send $2,000 check to people. And that's the first time I've ever seen a check where the money was actually money that we had, not printed money. But that's all you can do. If you can even do that, that's all you can do, because you can't print money. You can't have a stimulus, or you'll jack the prices of everything up, and then you're in the same loop over and over and over again. The only place where the government has the tools, has enough sway, Donald Trump could do this, to start breaking this thing up, is healthcare. And that could change things pretty much overnight. Within 12 months, if he acted today, within 12 months, you would start to see prices come down. You would start to see competition. You would start to see some sort of relief. But what else does he have, Stu? What else can he do that can change people's lives? And he knows he has to do that.
Well, I mean, I generally, I think, agree with most of that. I think that, the healthcare is one you could do. Although, again, that's something you sign up for on an annual basis, right? So, I mean, even if the prices did drop, it would take a while for that to come in. I mean, the easiest way to do this, and he's, by the way, done a lot of this, is, deregulation. I think what's happening with some of that, and we're not seeing tons and tons of results from that, is because I think he's doing things on the other side as well that are affecting prices the opposite way. So we're not going to see massive drops. And, of course, a lot of this is just, there's a lot of big promises that are made when you're talking about prices coming down really fast. It's not always achievable. Again, the president of the United States, we've said this for 100 million years. I feel like, again, we're on repeat here, but the president of the United States is not the guy who sets prices. That's not his job, right? Like, he doesn't micromanage the economy. He can do things that can help the economy. And I think what's happening now, as you're pointing out, and I think this is the desperation a little bit seeping into our politics, is that Trump won the election with a lot of people who had faith in him, not because he was good on even the border or on trans kids, trans men playing women's sports. It was about that affordability issue. He was really good on that, and people believed they would see an economy like they saw in 2018 and 2019 in his first term. And we're just, so far not really seeing that. Now, there's a lot to unwind from where Joe Biden was. And the way these prices work when it comes to inflation is not necessarily that prices drop down. That's what's so devastating about a long-term inflation like the one that we got from Joe Biden. The prices get to a set level, and you don't necessarily bring those prices down as much as you slow the increases.
Them from growing.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is difficult. Yeah. But again, one of the focuses of Trump's economic plan is to try to draw a lot of these products to be made in the United States. As you point out, that is a long-term process. You're talking about way after Donald Trump is out of office before you're seeing the potential theoretical benefits of new factories being built in the United States. It's going to take a long time for that to work if you believe it's going to work. And when you're talking about the other side of that, which is increasing prices based on different taxes and such, you're winding up with a situation where you're taking the medicine and you're waiting for those results to kick in over multiple periods of years. So I think the way that he can do a lot of this stuff, the best thing that he can do in a quick way is cutting regulation. You can cut out a lot of this stuff to increase the speed of the improvement. Like if you want to build a new power plant, he can cut those things from 12 years to 4. But that's not going to, it's not an immediate, economic win.
No,
when you're talking about that.
The country has cancer. That's the problem. The country has cancer, and we can survive, but it's going to take chemotherapy and a long time. And so you can't just go in if you have, cancer. You can't go in and say, well, you told me yesterday you were going to start chemotherapy, and I had my first chemotherapy, and I feel worse. And I'm not getting any better. It's been 6 months, Doc, and I'm not feeling any better. Yeah, you're not going to feel better at first because it's a serious disease. That's the issue that we're dealing with. The damage, and we said this under Biden, we said this under the first Trump, we said this under Bush. Reagan was saying this. At some point, the sickness is going to be so bad that there's not going to be anything that feels good to do. and it's going to get harder and harder to take the medicine. And unfortunately, everybody wants a quick fix. When Reagan came in and everything was out of control, you remember what Paul Volcker did? You remember this, Stu?
Yeah.
You weren't old enough.
Yeah, but he was.
But you know it through history. What did he do?
He had to get rid of inflation, so that meant jacking up rates, and it was a painful period.
To what? What?
Gosh, was it 18, 20% in that range, right?
It was, I think at the top it was 20% interest rates. I remember 19% interest rates. 19. People are freaking out over 5 or 6. We had 19% interest rates. That stopped everybody from buying. You want to talk about not being able to afford a house? That was it. But that's what sucked all that money back in. Well, you can't do that now because the patient is so sick. You can't. Those interest rates will kill everything. It'll kill all the jobs. The whole thing will collapse. So you can't do that. But we're complaining on 5%, and we're wanting them lower and lower and lower. Well, yes, I want that too, because there are signs that jobs are going away. But jobs going away is not just the interest rate. It is also AI and automation. We are in this really ugly place that if we don't have these honest conversations and really explain to each other exactly what all of the forces are, you're going to get socialism. Because that will seem like the only answer. Just make it stop. Just make it stop. Well, okay, but know what all of the forces are that are causing all of these things. And there is a way out of it. It just cannot be done in 2 years. It can't be.